welcome back. This is episode 14 of Sanctum Stitching, where modern meets vintage. I'm Fawn.
I'm Marianne.
And as I say every single time, we are so excited to be back here today. I'm not sure how long this one will be. I think we might have quite a bit. I know we have our celebrations, which we won't forget to do first this time. Whips. I have a finish. Marianne has vintage. I think we both have haul. And Marianne's going to tell us a little bit about stitching left-handed and instructions or sort of resources for you to find if you're left-handed like I am. So I'm looking forward to that section. Did you want to start with your celebration first?
My celebration is, y'all have heard me talk about this all-house generator. To Fawn's daddy, I'm telling you, it's in. We've got it in. It's over there in the side yard.
I can just hear him now, like getting this shot.
It worked. They, in fact, they came over on Thursday during the middle of our stitch in to test it and set it, make sure it was all set up and things. And we got the Wi-Fi set up and things like that. So, yeah, everybody froze on my iPad and then it unfroze. So it was like, yay, it's working. So yes, I don't care. It can storm all at once. And then I had our landscaper. He is now put down rocks all over there and they're going to put in stepping stones so that Marianne doesn't fall anymore over there. So yes, that's what I am grateful for. That and just a nice little, day trip, not even that long. I think I was gone about 2.5 hours up to Timeless Stitches on Friday, which was fun. It was good to see Denise in person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's super exciting. So you got stitch stuff, you're not going to fall more, and be able to see even when we get our storms. That sounds like a really good week.
It is.
Yeah, my celebration is yesterday afternoon. I went and saw Catherine, who we've talked about on this channel quite a bit. Both of us, I walked onto her back porch. We're both like, I want to hug you, but I can't hug you, but I want to hug you. And so it was so funny. That was really fun to hang out with her. And one of her kitties stayed on the porch and was very interested in me, so that was fun. I almost felt rude because I walked onto the porch. I was like, hi, oh, kitty. Circling around me. I was like, oh, so how you doing?
Right.
Talking to her while I'm petting the cat.
Well, of course.
But yeah, she gave me some goodies, which I'll share later on. And I'll say this again later. I'm so grateful. But it was really nice to see her. And I hope we get to have an actual stitching time. While we're there. She showed me this scrapbook that she has, and what she's done is take photos of all of her work and then put them into a scrapbook and say who it was designed by, the size, the thread she used, and if she gifted it to anybody. And so that was really cool to see in a different format instead of looking at the stitching itself, but still have a record of everything that she stitched. So that's something that maybe I'll get my act together and do. I doubt I'll be that organized, but it's a really nice thought.
As a librarian, I wholeheartedly approve that idea. I don't do it, but I think it's a neat idea.
Exactly. I want to do
take pictures. Yeah, I've been scrolling back through with that thing we had on Facebook. People in our group said, oh, show what you've been stitching or something like that, or what you finished. And so I've been scrolling back through all the pictures on my phone and that sort of thing. But yeah, Catherine's idea, I think, is really a neat way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome to sit there and sort of go through her history of stitching with her and see kind of where she started and sort of, she found out when we were looking through that she did a lot more cross stitching than she thought she did. We've talked about she usually does canvas work, and so there was a lot of that in there, but there was also a lot of cross stitching, which was, I think, a nice sort of recognition for her.
Yes. That's a good idea. It really is.
Yeah. Do you want to go with your whips?
Sure. After I yell at the cat, Fritzy, get off of there. Thank you.
Yeah, I watched him climb along the top of the couch.
Yeah, and he's headed for that chair of my great-grandmother's that he's already put a hole in the caning on it. So He gets
Oh,
up there and he doesn't know where to go once he's up there. Sorry, y'all. Fritz, the entertainer. Yeah. This is the Frank Lloyd Wright, and I just wanted to show the progress I'm making on it. And the problem before was it didn't line up right with these. There are going to be lines coming down here that connect to little arrows, and the line is going to come all the way down then, like over here. You can see the one over here where it comes and matches.
Right.
That's what we're going for over on these two as well. So I'm filling in the bottom squares, and I had them filled in before, and I'm able to tell where the other one was somewhat. Hopefully pressing it from the back will get rid of some of that. But yes, I'm making some progress, and it's been really nice just stitching on it and knowing that it's going to meet. It's
Right.
going to be right. So there we go. And Joe kind of laughed when I said I thought I would do maybe a turquoise and something with the other fabric I have, and maybe do another one of these. And he said, yeah, okay, let's get this one done first. So we'll get this one done first and see if I branch out or not.
Yeah, see if you want to do it again.
Yeah, I may not. I may go with the one Carrie gave me, and it's a whole different. Fritzy, that's not free. Excuse me, y'all. Fritz, get away. He's being, get away. You got to love him. Good thing he has 9 lives. I think I said that last week. He's getting close.
Yeah, Kathy gave us a paper bag, and that's what Wally has been in for the last 24 hours.
Oh my goodness. Oh my.
Yeah. When I was there, her cat was trying to get in the paper bag, and now Wally won't leave the paper bag.
Yeah, well, our cat Dominic would try and he was a big cat, and he would get into as small a box as possible. You know, he would try no matter what. He'd make an effort. Okay, well, moving on. Yeah, what did you have that you wanted to show as works in progress?
I worked on the Sabrina pattern, so Memories of Chaos by Fourth Circle Studio. Mm-hmm. And on the 3rd installment pattern came out Saturday. And of course, I'm still on the border for the first one because I promised myself I wouldn't move on to weeks 2 or week 3 until this week 3 and 4 because the first one was supposed to be the border. I wouldn't move on to those until I finished the border. So I'm almost done. So here's where I'm at. And so I have to finish crossing this top row, and then I have 2 rows to go on this side, and then I'll be done. So almost there. And then over in this section will be a small border, a small one here, and those both have Salem, so the black cat in them, facing. And then the Hilda pattern, which is sort of in a greenhouse, which I think will be really cool, that's over on this side. So pretty much to get the count for this right, I have to do the border here and then get to this border, and then I could start. Okay. But we're getting there. It's fine.
I like the fabric too. It looks pretty when you see those colors on it.
Yeah.
It looks really pretty. It's a nice background for the colors.
Yeah, this is Picture This Plus Cauldron. And so, of course, in the spots that are clipped up is where a lot of the rust color is.
Okay.
But it'll look really cool when it's done.
Yeah.
Just get through the border.
Just keep pressing at it. Keep pressing at it.
Yeah. And so this is different for me. I don't usually use a Q-snap. I'm usually a hoop person. And using my case creation frame, I can actually use a Q-snap this big and not have any problem with it.
Oh,
so
good.
That's cool. Before I couldn't use this because it was too big and it was heavier than a hoop, and so it just hurt my wrist to hold it. But if you do have a lap or a stand or a lap frame or whatever that you can attach something like this to, and you've only been using hoops, maybe give it a try.
Did I tell you our niece Carrie went out and bought one of those too, those stands, after seeing yours? She went online and found one.
Yeah, it's my stitching line.
Yeah, I couldn't remember whether I told you that or not, but yeah, she did. She said, yeah, I went and got one like Phone's. I said, well, good for you.
Seriously, I've been so much more productive since then. My neck doesn't hurt as much. My wrist doesn't hurt. And yeah, they're expensive, but it was seriously worth it. I know I got mine used, but I would have, now knowing how good it is, I would have paid full price for it. So
well, and you got to consider you have discovered this new love of doing, and it's not just a hobby. This is not a hobby. This is a love.
Yeah.
Thing, doing needlework, and it's a relaxing thing to do, and you might as well be comfortable doing it because this is something that you'll probably do even after y'all have children and you need a quiet moment to yourself, or you might take a break and then you start back again. It's something that you might as well have the tools there.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was at Karen's house, she was showing me her Dazor light and magnifier, and I looked through it at her embroidery, and it was just, it was crazy. The magnifier that she has is a square instead of a circle, and so stretching it, or like kind of, you know, when you look in a circle magnifier and it kind of makes your eyes feel weird. This one didn't make my eyes feel weird at all because it was an actual rectangle, and so it was just like looking straight on it. It didn't have like the curved edges. And so of course in the car on the way home, I looked those up and they're very expensive. And she did tell me to start saving my pennies. But after seeing how good that looks through there and how it didn't hurt my eyes to look at it, I think that will be the light and magnifier I end up getting at some point. But yeah, look up the Dazor lights. They're very cool, very expensive, but I think it might be worth it, just like that frame.
Does the one she have, does it sit on the table or hook to the table? Does it clamp to the table, or is it one that sits on the floor and you hang over?
Hers is the floor. I think they're on rollers.
Oh, so okay.
But on their site, they did have like clip-ons and table ones, so whatever your setup is.
Okay,
but
cool.
For me, I would need the rolling one.
I'll have to go look.
We never stitch in the same spot.
I don't either.
So anyway, whips. So I also spent almost my entire week on And a Forest Grew by Rosewood Manor. And so I finished all of the motifs. Yeah. So last time I think I was maybe here-ish. And so I finished all of that, and I came up with a frame or a saying and charted that out. And so it says, "Into the forest we'll go to uphold our marriage and never let go."
Very nice.
And so I thought that was cool. Sean was told he's not allowed to watch this video because he's not supposed to see this since it's our wedding sampler. So this won't be in our clip at the end.
Okay.
And then I started working on the center part, which I had charted out when I first got this pattern from Catherine. And I definitely misjudged how much will fit. So I started with going with a part of our vows in it. And then at the bottom, I was going to put both our names and then the date. And right now, only part of our vows are going to fit. So they'll have this line at the bottom that I'll have to figure out like a swirl or something to fill in the gap, which will make sense when I show you. And then I think I'm going to put our names and date at the very bottom of the pattern. So because this is so big, I'll show you on the picture.
Yeah.
You can see that this is very flat at the bottom. It's a perfect rectangle. So I'm going to put our names centered here. And then below that, center the date and put it there. So we'll
that'll be nice.
Part of our, and then this. So we'll have some blank spot on the side, but I think that'll be okay. And Catherine had used enough fabric when she started this that I definitely have the room to add that in and finish it, which is really nice. Because if I had fabric, I probably wouldn't have left that much room, and then I definitely would have needed it later. So this is what I have so far for the center.
Oh, wonderful. It looks
Says,
so pretty.
my soul honors your soul, and I am. And it's supposed to say at the bottom, devoted to you, which was part of our vows. And I actually had that engraved on a wooden watch for him. So I think that'll be really nice, that I gave him on our wedding day. So I think that'll be really nice to be in here. And I chose the color 924, the DMC, as the center, which I think it's better than the green, and it's also kind of matte, so it doesn't take away from it, but also pulls out some of the blues and the rest of the pattern. So then I'm getting there. You can see the devoted will fit where it's supposed to say devoted is the last line, and then I have that big gap that I'll have to find something to put in. Catherine had suggested I use something from this pattern she had given me, which is Language of the Flowers by Rosewood Manor. Mm-hmm. And so she was thinking I could take one of the flowers or something out of here and put in that same design.
That's a nice idea too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same designer and the same sort of look.
Yeah. I was going to say it looks like it could sit next to it, hang next to it or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I have for my whips. I'm going to hang this up for a bit because I was getting frustrated that it didn't go all the way to the bottom. But I have until September, so I have a little bit of time. I can let it sit.
Yeah. And now that you have that frame, you're stitching so quickly. So.
Yeah, it really helps. It keeps things tighter too, which I think is because my thumb's not pressing into the sides. I really like it. I know we both didn't have a new start. No. But I have a new start and a finish ×2, which actually comes with a really long story. So let me get a drink. So I woke up on Friday with the idea that I have to make a project bag. Something overcame me. I must have dreamed about it. And I was like, well, I can do that. I have a sewing machine. I can go get fabric. I can whip up this project bag. It'll be a nice, easy project. And I'm sure you can imagine where this is going. So I looked on Friday and I found 2 different patterns, one with a vinyl front and one without. And I was like, oh, well, it can't be that hard to add vinyl. Let's do the vinyl one. So now I make my first project bag. I'm going to have a vinyl front. And I have this vision. It's like, when you picture something and you think you can draw it and it's going to come out like you pictured it. Well, that's exactly what happened, but with sewing and a project bag.
Okay.
So I printed out the instructions. I went over to Joann's yesterday, and there was so much I needed to buy and didn't know it. So I needed to get like a rotary cutter with a cutting board that has the measurements.
It's like you use for quilting. Yeah.
Yeah, which made it a lot easier. I'm glad I bought that, even though that was expensive. Because I figured I can use that when I'm finishing things too to get things, get it square. So that was a good purchase. But I also had to buy some pins to tack the things. I needed to buy fabric, and so we bought too much fabric for too many bags. We also. I had to decide how much fabric to get, which was stressful. Then I had to find the vinyl, and then there's different sizes of vinyl. So you can have too thin. I felt like Goldilocks, where it was too thin, it was too thick, and it was too bright. And so that took me like 15 minutes just to pick the size vinyl I wanted.
Yeah.
And so eventually we get home. And of course, I'm excited about it. So as soon as we get home, it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock, I whip out the sewing machine. I start cutting all of my fabric, and the cutting went fine. So that was okay. And then I start sewing, which I don't, if you can guess, I don't sew. I think I made an apron in 4-H, and I tried to make a quilt for my parents once, but I didn't know how to quilt, and it was just me. I thought I could just randomly cut pieces of fabric and then sew them together, and then they would all fit and form a quilt. And I also didn't know how to like quilt the fabric down. So I just have these random squares that I had sewed into a thing, and so the quilt's like this, and like it was so bad. I said I would never ever quilt again. And then yesterday we get home, and I was about to start sewing. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll be a quilter yet. And then I start sewing. I was like, no, it's not gonna happen for me. So anyway, I told you this was a long story. I cut the fabric, and that was fine, and I was trying to follow this instruction, but it was a printed instruction. And I realized when I was trying to sew the zipper on, because I also have zippers, I didn't even just like have a flap or a hole. Like I decided to find zippers and whatever. And
did you have a zipper foot for your machine?
Well, I had to figure out what a zipper foot was too.
Oh, okay.
That was enough. So I'm reading these instructions, and it's like, okay, put your zipper foot on. I'm like, I don't know. So I figured out how to get there was like a pouch on my machine, and I knew how to get that out. And so that had a zipper foot, but then I had to figure out how to put that on, and I'm like trying to press it up into it. And then I realized there's a little knob on it that you could press, and it like attaches itself. And before that, I was trying to figure out how to get the other foot off. And
it has a knob too.
Yeah, she's like, oh, just install your zipper foot. And in the video I was watching, she just like smacks the machine lightly, and it all falls apart, and then smacks another thing, and it puts on. I was like, why are you smacking? Like, I don't understand.
Oh dear.
But I get the zipper foot on, and it didn't seem any different to me, and I wasn't sure which side to be using. And I realized that the instructions for the project bag that I had printed and was reading was not meant for me. It was meant for someone that knows how to sew, that knows that press means to iron.
Oh dear, Fawn.
Oh dear. To fold a 1/4 inch and not have to measure it, because I tried folding a 1/4 inch, and I don't know how anybody does that. Like, that is magic.
Well, you've got the lines on the bottom, on the plate underneath your stitching. There's a plate there on your sewing machine that has lines.
Yeah, but
and that's what you line up your fabric on, and you know to run along that distance then.
Yeah, but the hard part for me was that the lines seem like they're so far over on my sewing machine, and they're on like the C part. So if you have like the top where it comes down, and then you're stitching, it might be because I'm left-handed that it just like does it.
That could be because they're right there underneath where the needle comes in. You also might need a stronger needle for the vinyl.
Yeah.
You can't use just a regular needle that's in your sewing machine to stitch through vinyl.
We found that out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But then after I figured out these instructions are not for me, and I have already cried because I had this beautiful vision of I was going to come home, whip out a project bag in an hour, hand it to Sean all proud, and then we were going to like play a game and eat dinner and whatever. And when I get into something, I have to follow through and just finish it. So then he left because he was like, I can't be around you right now. Like, it was and he's like, I'm gonna go to the gym, you should take a break. And I was like, I can't take a break, finish this, I have to get it right. And so he left, and I found a video online, and so I ripped out everything that I already done, and I was gonna follow this online video, which I ended up doing, worked out better. But along the way of this whole endeavor to get these 2 stupid bags that I have in my hand, which I did finish 2 of them, I ripped the vinyl that I bought, which thankfully the vinyl's cheap, but I also now need to go get more. I broke a needle, and the machine jammed like 8,000 times. And every time it would start like shaking and doing this like, basically it was like a 5-year-old.
Well, your bobbin wasn't in tightly enough. Your needle was the wrong size. You probably don't have it. Do you have it sitting on a very firm surface?
Yeah.
And you probably were trying to stitch too quickly.
Yeah. And So it jammed, and it was like stuttering like a cranky 5-year-old that wants a candy, and you took it away. And so then it was haunted last night in my dreams by the E1 error and the E6 error. I was like,
oh my
gosh. And so then you turn it off, turn it on, and be fine again. I was like, what is wrong with you? You're fine. It was so. And so then I'm just like throwing things behind me on the floor because I have a scrap of fabric and ripped vinyl, and then when the machine would jam, all of the thread would come out in this big bunch, and I'm just like tossing it over my shoulder like salt. And Sean comes home. I don't have a project bag done yet. Yeah. It's been like 4 hours since he left because he knew not to come home. And the whole floor behind me is covered in crap. Floss. I'm covered in thread. Like, it was bad.
Oh, I wish I had been a fly on the wall watching this.
Oh my God. So Wally didn't even check on me. He was just in the back. And then
Wally liked the bag. He was staying out of trouble.
Yeah, yep, in the back. And so I have a big kitchen table too. And so it still wasn't enough room for me with the machine and like moving the fabric around and whatever. And I knocked 120 pins off the table.
Oh my God.
So now I have ripped vinyl, I have a broken needle, I have a jammed machine, I have 120 pins on the ground, and no project bag to show for it. So finally, I get it done, and then, so I finished one, and of course I didn't stop, because I was like, oh, well, this was such a horrible experience, I want to have a good experience, so then I'll go back and make another project bag. Because I know if I quit now with this terrible project bag, which I've now dubbed the garbage bag, I won't ever make another one, and I have all this fabric and whatever. And so I start cutting and start whipping up another bag all in the same night. Which it went better time, but the machine kept jamming, and that's when the needle broke. And so it ended up taking me 8 hours to do these 2 bags. So they're not good bags.
Well, your machine sounds a lot fancier than my 1973 Kenmore stitching, sewing machine, which I was thrilled because it had the zigzag stitch. And I've never heard of E3 or E6, or I don't know what that error stands for on a machine. So,
yeah.
Okay.
$100 brother machine. And
oh my.
So the E1 means that the foot wasn't down.
Okay.
So that one, okay, I get it. The E6 was when I guess it would jam, but then sometimes wouldn't be jammed. I would just get so much floss, like all
thread.
knotted.
This is thread. There's a difference.
Hell.
You're using thread.
Well, that nightmare would get all like bunched up here.
Yeah.
And then it would say E6.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have 2 bags. They zip, and they don't look great. But so here's the first one.
Okay.
And you can see like the vinyl is not straight. So I'm trying to tell myself that when it's in a, like you have stuff in it, it won't necessarily.
Right, that'll be fine.
Yeah. So
it'll give it room to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this is the scrap that I had found, a quilting scrap. So I didn't have to put any batting between, and it was already sort of quilted. But I had to cut these 2 pieces out and get them on this zipper. And then I had to try to get this binding on, which I didn't know how to buy binding. I didn't know how to make binding. I'm definitely not good at doing the corners, which thankfully it's black. So on this camera, it looks really nice. Right. But in person,
did a good job for a first time.
Oh, gosh.
Especially for somebody that's not sewn much before. I mean, you say you made an apron in 4-H. When I took home ec, I made a wool skirt with a lining.
Oh my God.
I made a jumper that was flannel that you had to match the pattern. It had to be something that you were matching up a pattern. And I've made a lot of my own clothes. And so, you've done pretty good there for somebody that never has sewn before, really.
And tell me, and like, I guess from a distant perspective, I get it. But you know, when you make something, you think it's going to turn out so nice, and then,
well,
here's
maybe
the other.
you overreached a little bit. Oh, that's pretty. I like the colors in it.
Yeah, so this one is Sean's.
Yeah.
And I really like this zipper.
Yeah.
And the fabric looks a lot nicer.
Mm-hmm.
I also, I'm not sure if it's showing up, I did this sort of wavy pattern.
Yeah.
Because I'm also mad that none of my stitches are straight.
Oh.
So I did this wavy one, and I was like, oh, it's an ocean. Oceans go like this. It's not straight, it's fine. So if I ever get to a point where I make a bag for someone, it's gonna have this ocean pattern on
it. Okay.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's a weird size. Sean like whole arm in there, just like. But you know what? It's fine. It looks better today. This one I had to put the binding between and sew it, which I also had never done. It said to get the fusible, which I guess you just iron and it's your stuff. But of course, I didn't get that. I just got the regular polyfill. And so that's where I had found this sort of zigzag stitch and just kind of went across it. So that's my story. That's my finish. I have a finished needle. But you know, it'll get better, and I have a lot more fabric that I bought because I was super ambitious. So I guess I'll have to make more bags, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, maybe try without the vinyl next time. Just make a nice, I know you're doing it that way so you can tell what's in it, possibly, you know, have your stuff and you can see it there. Excuse me 1 minute while I go move a cat. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all visit with phone for just a minute.
Yeah, so we were talking last night after I finished these, and I was ambitious. I have a zipper, I have vinyl, I have binding, which I've never done, fusing the fabric, which I've also never done. So, you know, as mad as I was because it's not what I pictured, it is very nice.
Yeah.
But I was thinking when I was doing this, I was like, oh, this is the title for our video, Project Bag Fails.
Well, at least, you know, you kept on plugging away. I hope you got all those pins picked up so Wally doesn't find them.
Yeah. Oh, I was so bad. Sean came out of the back. He was like, I heard something. What happened? I was like, 120 pins.
Don't step here in bare feet.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I bought the ones that had the color ends on
so
them.
You could see them. Yeah.
Because when picking them up, the other ones were cheaper, but I had the thought, I was like, oh, well, we should make sure we could see them. And then I knocked all of them on the ground. So I was like, okay, well, thanks earlier, Fawn. You did me a service.
I think that was a good idea.
Yeah. But you can see they're two very different sizes.
That's okay. That's okay.
One thing I did learn, though, this is done with a fat quarter piece. And so I had cut some off to get here. So I had 2 fat quarters total, one for the front, one for the back with some extra. But that was nice because I didn't have to buy an entire yard of something. You could just go to Joann's and pick out 2 or 3 of the fat quarter squares that you like, and that's so much cheaper. So if you know how to sew and you want to make a project bag, you can just use the fat quarters. You don't have to get a whole bunch of fabric.
Right.
So
good idea. Another place you can find those, I'll put a thing in for Quilt Patch up there in Tecumseh. They're right upstairs from Denise's shop, Timeless Stitches, is the Quilt Patch. And if you want to walk into a place that's they've got it where they've limited how many people, of course, can come in. So they've got a whole system going down in the lobby downstairs. But, you talk about fabric choices. I mean, you want green, you got to pick out which green out of, I don't know how many choices you might have. It's just amazing. And prints of all kind and stuff. So Joanne fabrics for when you're right here in town and don't want to travel anywhere further or something. But yeah, and you can use that fabric like you did. And they have them in, they have the little fat quarters that don't cost a whole lot. And it's great because you can pick out several things, like for your Halloween stuff you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also thinking, I know I think it's Fat Quarter Shop online. They get their weekly emails, and they always have, obviously it's Fat Quarter Shop. They have fat quarters, which are so pretty, and they have like blocks of 12. I never knew what to do with them, so I would never order them. But if I get this and keep going, then that'll be great. So then I get really fun ones.
That's right.
Okay, I need to break.
Good for you. Yeah.
Why don't you talk about something?
Well, I went up to Denise's to pick up my floss for the Susan B. sampler, some of it. I'm still missing a couple of colors, but I got some colors, some pretty floss.
Nice.
And actually, she had just gotten a new shipment of DMC in, so I saw the boxes, they come in, and she was going through all this stuff. And then she said, you know, I get all these little bags when I get stuff from another business. She said, I just don't know what to do with them. I said, she said, I'm hoping people in the guild can think of what to do. I said, well, I can think of something. I'll take some home. Because, you know, here we go with storage again, y'all. These are perfect for just putting some of your floss into that you might have for a project, you know, if you want to divide up some colors or something like that. So I got those. Those were free. And then I had ordered from her some linen to do the Susan B. sampler that we're going to be doing in August, starting in August for our sal. And she didn't have the linen, but she had some joblin, and it's called lamb's wool. Fritzy, and that's Fritz.
He's so
I don't know what's with him today, but he's getting close to aggravating Mama even more. I think he wants to be on the porch and it's too hot. But here's this lamb's wool, and it's a real pretty, it's showing up lighter in this than it is, but it's a real pretty light colored, you know, beige kind of. So I have a piece for that, for the Susan B. And then I bought also the librarian's house. And then I saw something up there on her shelf, and it's called Peach Whisper, and it's a linen. Isn't this pretty? Wow. I just thought that was so pretty. So I got some of that, and I thought, but I'm thinking maybe I've got 2 blackbird designs I'd like to do, and I thought maybe they might look pretty on this for a change, you know, just to change over from basic colored linen. I'm not sure. Did the joblin show up okay? Did I get it in front of the camera?
Looks like country mocha.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember, but
okay, because this is called lamb's wool is the name of the color. So that's what I did with that. So I'm not real big in haul today because you know, there was just something. Do you want me to do vintage at all right now, or what would you like to do?
Actually, let me show what I got this week.
Okay.
So before we switch our segment.
That's fine.
So when I went to Catherine's, she was so kind to me, and she gave me some floss, and she also gave me these thread drops. They're made out of paper, but I think those will be easier than the bobbins. So we'll definitely, she said it helps her stitch a lot faster than like taking off a bobbin. So we'll try that. Marianne, if you need any, let me know.
Thank you. I noticed you've got a lot of those.
Yeah, I showed this to Sean, and he was like, ooh, like his eyes lit up, like little sparkles in it, because he's always the one that bobbinates our stuff, and so he's excited to see these.
Yeah.
Then she had given me, of course they all just broke off this thing. Well, I had them on, she had them on a hoop, but she had given me some of the flosses to get me started on the cobblestone canvas piece. And so there's not enough to do all of the project,
Right.
but it might be at least enough to get started.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these are really cool looking. So
They're pretty colors.
This kind of looks like a ribbon. You could see
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of flat. And so some of those are like that. This one I thought was really cool. It's called Petite Very Velvet. And it's like a cord, but it's velvet.
Okay.
And so there's a green one, just like that.
Oh, pretty.
And then these ones are the ones I'm more used to working with, the silk lame braid. And so they are kind of like a Kreinicky type look to them.
Nice.
Yeah, so then I like almost cried. I was so excited. She pulls out, she had some of the Karen collection also where she had just some leftovers and gave me that. But she also had this whole thing of Week's Dye Works, some Glorianas, I think there was another brand in here, some Gentle Arts, and they're just leftovers from projects she had done before and wanted them to be used. So if you're looking for something, let me know, Marianne, because I probably got it.
Okay.
Like this one I thought was really pretty. It's called Week's Dye Works Bermuda.
Oh, that is pretty.
Cotton candy.
Yeah.
Let's see. This one is called Autumn Leaves.
Oh, gorgeous.
And it's not really, but there's a lot of yellow in there too.
Yeah.
And there's one more I wanted to show. Whenever we get floss colors, I like to ask Sean what color he thinks they are. And so that's always fun to see. Sometimes he gets them spot on, and I don't know how he manages. But this one, here we go. And then this yellow one.
Oh, wow.
Marigold. I was like, that's a marigold.
That is a marigold. I was going to say that, or it looks like that ice cream you get that's the gold, the orange and yellow kind of orange color.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But marigolds are orange too. They're orange and yellow.
So thank you, Catherine, so much. I know I thanked you, and I wish I could have hugged you. It felt so weird leaving and not being like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got a gorgeous porch and sort of stitching set up, and so I can't wait to get back there and spend the day, chat away, and not leave Sean in the car.
Right. He can stay home. He can do something else. Yeah.
Exactly. I came out and he's just like asleep in the driver's seat. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I got this week. I'm so grateful for it. And you said you had some vintage?
I do. I was thinking about, I don't have vintage stitching except for these are stitched some. These are some gloves that were my grandmother's. And they're ones that you would have worn if you had a suit that the sleeves were 3/4 inch length. So what you do is you put your pretty glove on. Now these would be more for like church, I would say, or maybe you went out for a nice tea or something like that. And it used to be, now I can still get them on, believe it or not. But see, that's how it looks then.
Oh, it looks scandalous.
Yeah, it's stitched right here on the side. And then of course these are like little picots. And I've been to the store with my grandmother before. She used to go to Gerber's in Memphis. It's no longer named Gerber's. But you would go into the glove department and sit down on a stool or a chair of sorts. Now these are a really soft cotton, just a real soft fabric. And you can even see the stitching is on the inside. Well, you can't really see there. There you go.
Oh.
See it there. And then this is it. I'll take a picture of it. You can put at the end. But I just thought these would be fun to show, but you would go in and you set your arm up on the counter and then your hand, and all of the leather gloves had to fit just exactly. I mean, they were supposed to be very tight that you would wear in the winter or, you know, for dress up or whatever. But I just thought these were pretty, and I thought it would be fun to show them off since they do have a little bit of embroidery on them.
Yeah,
and,
that's
they're done with stem stitch on that's the stem stitch going through here. And then just a nice little plain stitch. And then you've got like almost like a picot. Fritz, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what's in his mind today, but he has decided to be the annoying kitty of the household since he's the only one left. He's normally on the porch, but it's too warm. For those of you who might have wondered what's on my t-shirt today, it says, Girls Raised in the South. It says grits, Girls Raised in the South. I had some people wondering last week what was on mine, and I thought, well, it'd be fun to wear another one with the saying. This was a gift from a friend of mine down in Memphis after I had moved up here. So it's a comfortable shirt too. So I thought, well, I'll wear it today.
nice.
I wanted to say, for those of you who are left, because I've had to stitch some left-handed too with my right hand acting up. I do, if I'm using a hoop where I can put it onto a stand of sorts, the idea is you stitch with both hands then. And so you use your dominant hand underneath and then pull the thread up. So I'm using, actually, when I'm doing that, I'm using my left hand to do the stitching on the top. Now, for those of you like Fawn who are left-handed, sometimes some of the directions might look askew when you're trying to follow a chart or a pattern. Sometimes you feel like, oh, my cross stitches are going the wrong way, but they're not. They're what you would do. So a friend mentioned, you know, I see all these different people on Flosstube and I feel like maybe my stitching's not as good. Your stitching is always wonderful. Whatever you do, you can't, if I was going to get that frustrated, I'd give up being in Guild, because we've got master craftsmen in Guild, and I look around and say, oh my goodness, where am I going from here? But it's the relaxing, it's the enjoying just the motion. And I went on, being a librarian, I went online last night and just looked up how to do embroidery left-handed. Well, there's quite a number of books out there. I didn't make up a list. Sorry about that. I wasn't as thorough as usual. My judges used to say, look out, she'll give you what you need and probably more. But I would recommend instead of just always looking at a Flosstube, sometimes it helps to have a book in hand too that you can go back and refer to. You've noticed Fawn and I do show off some of the books we've gotten or the magazines or something. So I would encourage anybody who's struggling. It's the same way with knitting. If you're right-handed, the more it seems to be geared towards you. But left-handers can knit too, and there's a way to do it. Something to caution you on when you're using variegated threads, it doesn't matter whether you're right-handed or left-handed. You do your cross stitch all at once. You don't go down the row and then come back, because the colors aren't going to work right. So if you're using a variegated thread, complete your cross stitch right then. Even the same with needlepoint. You would want to go on, and if you're doing something that way. We don't use variegated threads as often in needlepoint per se, but what the hey, people might, you know. But I would say hang in there and just know that your work is beautiful too, and that there are resources out there for you to look at, and not be feeling like, well, I mean, Fawn says it's hard finding left-hand scissors sometimes, and but there are some books out there, and several of them were not overly expensive, or maybe your public library has it where you could check some out, or maybe you could even find an audio book or an ebook. Well, probably an ebook, because you would want something you could look at. But that's my suggestion for that is first off, do not let other people's stitching do anything but inspire you. Don't ever worry. I worry sometimes and think, oh golly. And then there are other times when I say, I like it. It's turning out okay. It may not be perfect, but it's going to do for what I want it to do. And so I would encourage you, especially in these days and times, we all need to do something that we enjoy and that makes us smile. Even Fawn with her vinyl and thread all over the place. I give her credit for at least hanging in there and trying. I probably would have said, okay. And I don't have one of those brother machines. Those are nice ones. They're supposed to be really nice. Singer is more what our family's always used until I moved out of the house, and then my parents bought me the Kenmore. But there you go. So I hope that's all I've got for today.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Definitely do what Marianne said, and if you're left-handed, check out some of those resources just by Googling. I know that for me, I ended up stitching with both hands. I can't write with both hands, but I write left-handed, but I end up stitching with both, and I just sort of switch off, and some days I'm right dominant, some days I'm left dominant. And that seems to work for me, that I can get the stitches the way people are showing, but it does take a little more thought and brain power to make sure that you're like, okay, but wait a second. So just give it a shot. Don't be discouraged. I know what it's like to get discouraged, but you just gotta sometimes power through, and if it doesn't look so great the first time, as Sean told me last night, there's always a second and a third time. So just keep with it. And we're so glad we got to spend today with you, whatever day that is for you. And we will see you next week. So, bye.
Bye-bye.